1 minute until showtime. Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Live from Daytona Beach, Florida, bringing a voice to America, speaking the truth, and making America great again 1 hour at a time. It's Trump Talk Now. Trump Talk Now from the Double Barrel Bar and Grill at Volusia Top Gun. Here's your host, Vic Baker.
Greetings, fellow American patriots, Republicans, and welcome to Trump Talk Now. We are the home of fearless truth-telling about America's transformational president, Donald Trump, and his ongoing mission to make America great again. Our show is brought to you locally by Volusia Top Gun in Daytona Beach, Florida, where we're live streaming on Facebook in front of an audience of patriot Trumpublicans. In just a few minutes, we expect to bring you a conversation with Washington Examiner Chief Political Correspondent Byron York about his new book, Obsession. His book gives an insider look at the Washington establishment never-ending war on Trump and exposes the true motives behind the Russian collusion delusion, impeachment fantasy, and COVID fear-mongering. Judge Janine has suddenly rescheduled appearance for October. That's 2 weeks from tonight, and we expect to have more on that for you later. I just have to say a big MAGA thank you to all the volunteers who organized yesterday's thrilling welcome for Lara Trump, Katrina Pearson, and Pam Bondi in Port Orange, Florida, right here in our home turf. As many as 500 patriot Trumpublicans lined South Nova Road to welcome the big pink Women for Trump tour bus to Volusia Republican Trump Victory headquarters in Port Orange. The ladies delivered a rousing pep talk to the tireless volunteers who worked the phone bank, staff headquarters, and knock on doors for President Donald Trump's re-election victory. They said it was the biggest and classiest welcome that they've received in their entire tour anywhere in the United States. A big shout out to Trump Victory Deputy Director for Florida, Marianne Pastilli, and her crew, who pulled it all together in a few days' notice. They have to do these things, folks, on short notice for security reasons. Folks, this is what true leadership is all about. So what are you waiting for? It's time to come to the headquarters in Port Orange, roll up your sleeves. We're just 47 days away from the most important election of our lives. Now, President Trump pulled off another triumph of historic proportions this week. A grand ceremony at the South Portico of the White House formalized the signing of the Abraham Peace Accords among Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain. The agreement is named after Old Testament prophet Abraham, the common patriarch of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. President Trump and his diplomatic team bucked the conventional wisdom by sidelining the recalcitrant Palestinians and convincing two powerful Arab states to make peace with Israel. At least 5 others are about to follow very soon. Now, here's some points. The Palestinians have played Lucy Van Pelt one too many times, pulling away the football at the last minute. After a series of Charlie Brown presidents, in steps President Trump. His first overseas trip as president took him to Israel and Saudi Arabia, where he challenged leaders of the Muslim world to drive the terrorists out. President Trump saw Obama's nuclear agreement with Iran as a dangerous deal with the devil, and he yanked it, imposing crippling sanctions on the rogue terrorist regime. President Trump saw the empty promises of his predecessors and changed the course of history by moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, recognizing the ancient holy city as the one true capital of Israel. He recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. He saw the threat from ISIS throughout the Mideast and the world. Remember, Obama called them the Junior League team? And he rubbed it out, President Trump did, with the full force of the American military. He didn't ask for permission, he just did it. When terrorists plotted to assassinate Americans, President Trump ordered the execution of ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. When Iran rattled sabers and attacked the U.S. Embassy and our forces in Baghdad, President Trump delivered a kill shot to the world's most notorious terrorist mastermind, Qasem Soleimani. For decades, the so-called foreign policy experts said that we have to appease the Palestinians and give them Jerusalem and most of the West Bank to achieve peace. President Obama played footsie with the Iranians. President Trump and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, found a different path. Trump stood with Israel's security and sovereignty. He stood against Iran's potential nuclear threat. Those dual positions gave Donald Trump credibility with the Israelis and the Gulf states, who fear Iran far more than Israel. This week's paradigm-shifting ceremony promises more than just a cessation of hostilities. It builds a new normal for the Mideast, a normal where Muslims and Jews can do business with each other, exchange ambassadors, air travel, and share in the prosperity of free and open commerce. Other Arab nations are sure to follow Donald Trump's lead, leaving Iran and the Palestinians isolated. This epic Mideast milestone comes after President Trump also brokered a peace deal between predominantly Muslim Kosovo and predominantly Eastern Orthodox Serbia. This peace deal is in a Balkan region where religious hostilities have reigned for centuries. President Trump has made us energy independent, giving the U.S. huge leverage as a peace broker around the world. He's strengthened our military to restore our overwhelming dominance. Yet he's keeping us out of protracted wars and bringing our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines home by the thousands. Now, Barack Obama was given a Nobel Peace Prize participation trophy after doing absolutely nothing. President Trump has now been nominated twice for his recent efforts alone. Let's see if the Nobel Committee can recognize that Orange Man is good for peace in the world. We know there's no peace on the streets of America's Democrat-ruined cities. 2 L.A. County Sheriff's deputies are recovering after a brazen gunman shot them in the head as they sat in their patrol car. It was caught on video. Remarkably, a city manager condoned the violence. A small crowd actually gathered at the hospital calling for the death of the deputies. The sheriff of L.A. County is offering a reward of $175,000 to bring this would-be cop killer to justice. One of the deputies actually saved the life of her partner by stopping his bleeding. Our heroes are on the line, folks. This is the America that Joe Biden will breed if we let him wander aimlessly into the White House. The Wuhan virus is fading, but the fake news muckmongers want you to believe we'll all die from it tomorrow unless we walk around like zombies in germ-infested masks. CDC Director Redfield actually said the masks are more effective than a vaccine. Really? Can we believe anything these so-called experts tell us anymore? Researchers have discovered a new antibody that may actually prevent infection before you can get sick from the Wuhan virus. In any case, President Trump says a vaccine will be ready before the end of the year. We understand Pfizer has one that'll probably be ready in October. In the meantime, let's get back to work and make some money. What do you say? Wall Street is already doing it. J.P. Morgan Chase wants employees back in their Manhattan offices this month if they can wade through the looters and rioters to get to the work. The Dow is hitting highs again. Attorney General Bill Barr says the shutdowns that shuttered churches and businesses represent the worst civil rights abuses since slavery itself in this country. People have lost their livelihoods. 100,000 businesses are out of business permanently. Did you know that? 100,000. The virus numbers are jiggered. The president wants America back in business. He wants us to return to school, go back to work, back to Japan has responded to the president, and the games are about to start again. Well, the NFL is playing, but they're playing politics. America's football stadia are now shrines to Black Lives Matter Incorporated propaganda. Players are kneeling or ditching the national anthem entirely by staying like cowards in the locker room. Some are wearing the names of accused criminals shot by police. Ratings are down 30% or more. The stadiums are mostly empty. Get woke, go broke. These pumped up, pampered prima donnas will soon find their obscene paychecks bouncing because the NFL stands for no fans left. Joe Biden is supposed to face President Trump on a debate stage in 12 days. Can you believe it? Any bets on whether that ever happens? If it does, it will shatter whatever is left of the feeble Biden myth. The fake news reporters who've been lobbing pre-scripted softballs won't be able to save him from the debate stage. The American people will see for themselves what you and I already know. Slow Joe is a no-go. To restore the limping Obama economy, brought huge tax cuts and deregulation, building the biggest economic boom in American history. And walls don't work anyway. He's building the wall, and it works. They told him you can't move the embassy to Jerusalem because you'll ignite World War III. Well, he did put the embassy in Jerusalem. Now we're on the verge of peace in the Mideast. They told him you can't bring down the cost of prescriptions and medical care. He's using common sense, business practices, and doing just that. Now, I'm going to borrow a little verse tonight to illustrate the extraordinary character of a president such as Trump, using a poem penned by Edgar Albert Guest about a century ago. Here it is. Somebody said it couldn't be done, but he said with a chuckle replied that maybe it couldn't, but he would be one who wouldn't say so till he tried. So he buckled right in with a trace of a grin on his face. If he worried, he hid it. He started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. Somebody scoffed, "Oh, you'll never do that. At least no one never has done it." But he took off his coat and he took off his hat, and the first thing we knew, he'd begun it. With a lift of his chin and a bit of a grin, without any doubting or quit it, he started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. There are thousands to tell you it cannot be done. There are thousands to prophesy failure. There are thousands to point out to you one by one the dangers that wait to assail you. But just buckle in with a bit of a grin. Just take off your coat and go to it. Just start in to sing as you tackle the thing that cannot be done, and you'll do it. Now on to my fellow Trump pundit, Volusia County's 2016 Trump-Pence campaign chairman, Joe Fieldis. Joe.
Good evening, Vic. Hello, friends, and happy Constitution Day. On this day in 1787, the members of the Constitutional Convention, all 39 of them, signed the incredible document they had created, and the great experiment of freedom and self-government began. As you may know, I'm always looking for some good news in our world of trouble. So I found an essay written by a woman named Anna Mazurek. It was posted Tuesday on the website American Greatness. Anna lives in Georgia. She's a wife and a mother of 4 teenagers, a caregiver, an advocate for the handicapped and the elderly. If she now represents the suburban mom vote, which over the years has mostly belonged to the Democrats, then it's over for them. Here's what she wrote. When Trump was elected, I was really disturbed. It just felt like a surreal joke to me. He was a party switcher and a womanizer. I didn't trust him. I feared he would ruin the presidency, and his unfiltered mouth would get all the crazy dictators of the world stirred up and bombing. But this time around, I came away from the Republican National Convention feeling hopeful, protected in a he's got my back kind of way, and completely blown away by how dedicated he has been to advancing pro-people, pro-American policies in such a short period of time. From prison reform and tax cuts and incentives to pull good businesses back to the inner cities, to declaring the opioid crisis a national emergency, and launching a three-pronged all-out offensive against it involving education, cracking down on domestic and international supply chains, and funding proven recovery programs. Trump has been on America's side. He restored funding to historically black colleges and sought the counsel of black Americans for his administration's policies. He has stood up to China and created a favorable trade deals for our workers. He has revitalized the military, showcasing it to create peace through strength, and has created and championed the Space Force. He took out two important terrorist leaders, thus delivering ISIS a horrible blow. Yet he has also championed the individual soldier, bringing home American boys from foreign entanglements and reforming the Department of Veteran Affairs. Trump's administration has been at work eliminating intrusive government regulations to allow small businesses and many industries across the country to breathe and grow. He's appointed judges who honor the Constitution, and he's been a champion for school choice and religious liberty. He is standing strong against riots, violence, and radical movements, and politicians who are calling to defund our police, or promoting socialist agendas that history has shown over and over again lead to tyranny, spiritual, cultural, economic poverty, and devastation. He speaks more boldly for the pro-life cause than some of our ministers and priests, and stands firmly against pro-choice advocates who are lobbying for increasingly extreme abortion rights, like abortions at full term. The Trump administration seems to be keeping its head on straight as the rest of the nation goes pandemic bonkers. He donates his salary to charity. That speaks to me. I believe he truly loves America and what it stands for. And I feel like he sees our people, our nation, hemorrhaging. He's in an all-out emergency response mode, getting dirty and bloody as he tries to get those tourniquets on. My apologies, Mr. President. I misjudged you and grossly underestimated you. It was my judgy mouth that needs to be corrected this time for criticisms that I made superficially and at no personal cost to me from the comfy spectator chair on the sidelines of the war raging on this great American battlefield. Thank you, Mr. President. God bless you, your family, and God bless America. I think Anna, the suburban mom from Georgia, has done something that millions of Americans are doing right now, seeing through the fake news lies and recognizing who Donald Trump truly is and what he's trying to do for us. And that means there's going to be a lot of Trump votes this time that weren't there in 2016. This is very good news. Vic, let's roll.
We'll be back in just a moment with Byron York.
Time to drain the swamp. Let's take a time out. Trump Talk Now. Trump Talk Now.
At Embroidery Plus, it's all about the plus. Embroidery Plus can customize your athletic wear, golf apparel, caps, hats, Embroidery Plus is badges, buttons, magnets, backpacks, bags, and totes, plus watches, plus 2033 in South Ridgewood and South Daytona. They're waiting for your call at 386-255-5088. Embroidery Plus.
Let's return now to the Trump Truth from Volusia Top Gun. It's Trump Talk Now with your host, Vic Baker.
Welcome back from Publicans. We're here at the Volusia County Double Barrel Bar and Grill. This segment brought to you by the Double Barrel Bar and Grill. We have a room full of very big fans of your work, Byron York. We're welcoming to the show tonight the Washington Examiner chief political correspondent, Byron York, the author of a new book destined to be a bestseller, Obsession. And it's the story of how the deep state and everybody in the Washington establishment has been gunning for Trump since before he was elected. Byron York has the inside story on that, and he's here to share some of that with us here tonight. Welcome, Byron York.
Hi, thanks very much for having me.
Well, Byron, we're privileged to have you with us. We've been living through some of this drama with you through the past 3 years, and we're anxious to hear what kind of insights you can provide us. We understand from the very beginning, for one thing, your book recounts the fact that people such as Chris Christie and even Jeff Sessions warned President Trump, get rid of Comey as soon as you can. And
they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. In the transition, so Trump has been elected and he's not taken office yet, a number of the people close to him advised him to fire Comey immediately. Tell Comey that his services will no longer be required after January 20th, 2017, Inauguration Day. Rudy Giuliani told me, he said, I told Trump, Comey is going to turn on you. There is something wrong with him. Chris Christie said he told Trump that Comey was a loose cannon, and if he kept Comey after he became president, he would become his loose cannon. What's interesting is the president did not take their advice. He didn't fire Comey, and so the question was why. And he really thought he could win Comey over. All through his business career, he's felt he could bring people around. He could bring them around to his side through his own personality and talking to them. And he thought he could win Comey over. And I think we'll have to probably all agree that that just didn't work.
Of course it did, and by the time he had second thoughts about Comey and asked Chris Christie in April, what should I do? Christie said, well, you're going to have a firestorm if you fire him, because now you've waited a few months. You could have justified it at the beginning of your administration, but now that this investigation's begun to fester, you're going to have, I think your expression was, people's hair will be on fire. When this firestorm, and then there's no turning back at that point. And then the fuse is lit, Byron, and off we go, right?
It was, and you're right. Christie said if you fire him now, it's going to look like you're trying to impede the investigation. And certainly it set off this huge controversy. And 8 days later, he had a special counsel. And Trump was shocked when the special counsel was appointed. But after that, he had to figure out, well, how am I going to deal with this? And he wanted the investigation. If there was going to be an investigation, he wanted it over very quickly. And what happened was something that we didn't hear a word about at the time. But basically, Trump and his lawyers came up with a proposal to take to Mueller, which they did in June 2017. Mueller had been in office just a few weeks, probably didn't even have all his furniture yet. And the proposal was this. It was, I, President Trump, want this investigation to be over very quickly. Now, you, Special Counsel Mueller, are going to want things from me. You're going to want evidence. You're going to want documents. You're going to want testimony from people around the White House. Now, a lot of that is covered by executive privilege. I can object. We can go to court. It'll take forever. So here is my proposal. I will give you everything. All the testimony you want, all the documents you want. I will cooperate with you like nobody has ever cooperated. And in turn, I want you to promise that you will get this investigation over quickly. And they make a handshake deal. Trump's lawyer, John Dowd, and Mueller shake hands. Mueller says, I don't let grass grow under me, indicating that he'll move quickly. They shake hands. It's a deal. And we didn't know it at the time, but Trump was practicing really radical cooperation with Mueller.
He was, and yet at the same time, I think your book recounts that the Trump team, or that is not the Trump team, the Mueller team was really working hand in glove with the Democrats at the time, the minority Democrats in the House, because they had no impeachment powers at the time. And he became an arm of the Democrat minority in the House during that period of time before they took control. And the team, as you know, was rabidly partisan and out to get Trump. In fact, can we even believe that Mueller was even running this investigation, or was he, like Joe Biden, a figurehead in front of it?
Well, that is a fascinating part of this book. First of all, the end of 2017 comes, and Mueller has been looking for collusion, which is his assignment, right? That's his big task. He can't find it. It's not there. And the Trump people go to him and say, listen, remember our deal. We've held up our end. You have not been able to find collusion. It's time to wrap this up. And the Mueller people say, no, we're not going to wrap it up. We're going to start investigating obstruction of justice. And by the way, we'll need to talk to the president. And so all of that cooperation, all of that, good relations just went away at that point. Now remember, at the very beginning, Mueller had hired a bunch of very partisan Democrats as some of his prosecutors. One of them, Andrew Weissman, known as Mueller's pit bull, had actually gone to Hillary Clinton's election night event in New York. It was supposed to be a huge celebration, didn't work out that way.
Yeah, they canceled fireworks.
So you have all these partisan Democrats working for Mueller. But remember that when Trump complained and other Republicans complained, Mueller's defenders said, listen, Mueller is straight down the middle, scrupulously fair. He will keep these prosecutors in line. He will ride herd on them. Okay, so put that away in your mind. Now, fast forward to July of 2019. Mueller has released his report. He couldn't find collusion. Democrats want him to testify on Capitol Hill because they're still clinging to this hope that they can impeach Trump based on the Mueller report. It's a disaster. Mueller is easily confused. He has a difficult time answering some of the most basic questions. He has a difficult time putting together complex sentences. Something is wrong. And a lot of people remark that he just seems to have suffered a cognitive decline. They remembered Mueller from a decade and a half earlier as a very, very sharp lawyer, head of the FBI, a micromanager even. So this was not the old Robert Mueller. And this was not a surprise to the Trump team. More than a year before that, April 2018, Rudy Giuliani joins the defense. They have a get-acquainted meeting with Mueller. Now, you remember, I'm sure everybody will remember, there's this Justice Department opinion that says a sitting president cannot be indicted. It's pretty well known. It became a huge part of the investigation. It comes up at this meeting with Giuliani and Mueller and a few others, and Mueller doesn't remember it. He doesn't recall what that opinion is. Now, this was stunning to the Trump people. I mean, the Robert Mueller of old would have known all about it. And after the meeting, they say, wow, what is going on? And the Mueller staff tries to cover for him. And they don't let the Trump people talk to him. It was the last time they saw Mueller face to face, and they never got him on the phone again after that. So think back now. There are all these concerns because he's hired these partisan Democrats. But he's going to ride herd on them. He's going to be, strictly in charge. Well, after they see that he's having cognitive difficulties, they think, wow, what if he's not in charge, and who is in charge? And I'll tell you, they never learned the answer to that question. But I think it's pretty clear they believed by the end that Robert Mueller was not the man running the investigation.
And now, more recently, Byron, these are events that have occurred perhaps since or they've been revealed at least since the publishing of your book. We hear that the Mueller team members may have wiped their phones clean. That sounds familiar. And now, I mean, I wonder if the NSA, I saw some reporting somewhere, that I'm not sure if I trust the source, so the NSA may still have the contents of those phones someplace. But the point is, they wiped the phones clean. Isn't that the sort of thing they were going to accuse Trump of doing? That is, of obstructing justice?
It's very, very fishy. They say basically they accidentally wiped it clean by entering the incorrect password too many times.
Oh, please.
And, I didn't know. I've used an iPhone for years, and they were using iPhones. I've used one for years. I didn't know it had this feature to erase everything on the phone.
Right.
And, people have precious things on their phone. They have their photographs. They have contacts. They have lots of very valuable stuff. So it's no surprise that Apple does not make it easy to delete all the information on your phone. This is what you have to do. If you enter an incorrect password, and then you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, you've done it 4 times, the phone will freeze for a minute or so.
Right.
And then if you enter another one and it's incorrect, it'll freeze for longer. And if you enter another one and it's incorrect, it'll freeze for even longer. And the bottom line is, if you keep entering incorrect passwords, it will freeze for longer and longer and longer. It will take you about 3 hours of entering incorrect passwords to get to the point where the phone will erase itself. Now, Andrew Weissman managed to do that twice, 2 phones. And you think to yourself, how did that happen? So, look, I hope that we will find out. I hope that John Durham, the prosecutor looking into this, will find out. It appears they did this around the time that the texts, the anti-Trump text between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page came around. So, we'll see what happened. But it's very, very fishy.
Well, Byron, now we sit before this Durham investigation. We're 47 days before the election as of tonight, and we're well past Labor Day, the traditional time when the DOJ says, well, we're not going to touch anything because it's political. Yet, of course, Bill Barr has been dropping hints that there may still be more indictments coming. What's your sense, based on the people you've talked to and what you've learned in your research, what's your sense of where that's going to go? Do you think it's all going to land with a thud?
There's 2 ways to look at it. Well, it depends on how you approach it. There's 2 ways to look at it. I've always just wanted to know what happened. And so, for example, when we did find out about those Strzok-Page texts, when we did find out about the dossier, when we did find out about the way they treated Michael Flynn and all of these things, all of these things have been good that we have found out about because they wanted to keep them secret. And we found out about them because Devin Nunes pushed somebody and found out about it, or we found out because Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General of the Justice Department, did a report about it. We found out about it in a lot of ways. And I think with Durham, we're going to find out more about what happened, especially since he wasn't limited to just the Justice Department and what he could look at. Now, on the other hand, I think there are people who do want indictments. They want somebody to be put into cuffs and marched down to the station.
I can tell you there are a lot of people in this room that want to see some scouts.
I don't, look, I just don't know if we're going to see that. We've seen one person charged, a relatively low-level person charged with a very serious crime. But I don't know if we're going to see more. It may be unsatisfying if you want people charged. On the other hand, if you want to find out what happened, it may be a pretty good thing.
So now, you talked about Ukraine and the impeachment debacle in your book, and you basically said the Trump team was never really seriously worried about Ukraine as a threat to impeachment. And certainly they seem to litigate rings around the impeachment prosecutorial team that the House put up. It was pretty weak lawyering on their part.
Well, what happened was they've been fighting a long war with Mueller. And after that meeting I described, where the Mueller people said they weren't going to end the investigation, they were going to keep on, basically what followed was a year and a half of fighting over whether the president would testify. And the Trump team won that one big time. Because Mueller, he never could prove collusion. He couldn't prove an underlying crime, and therefore he could not demonstrate that he had this urgent need to impose on the President of the United States for his testimony. It was just never going to happen. So the Trump team, before the Mueller report is released, they get to go to the Justice Department, spend a couple of days reading it, and they're really happy. They think this is good. This is good. He couldn't prove anything. And what happens is, after the report comes out, they all kind of relax a little bit. And this is the Trump team and the and Republicans on Capitol Hill. They think, wow, finally, this long Russia ordeal is finally over. Boy, that's great. And they didn't know it. But at that very moment, Adam Schiff was working with a whistleblower to come up with a new charge against the president. And they were taken by surprise. I mean, they had no idea what was going on. They learned about it in the news. I have a scene in early September 2019 where the House has been out of Washington. They come back. There's a meeting of the Intelligence Committee. Of course, Adam Schiff is the chairman. Devin Nunes is the top Republican. And Schiff starts talking about a whistleblower, and they had no idea what he is talking about. But one of them said, Schiff, I don't want to say he was giddy, but he was really anticipating. So they were suspicious. But they all thought it was going to be some more about Russia. They were going to go to the well again on Russia, because that's what they always did. And they were very surprised when they found out about this Ukraine thing, and they had to start at zero and find out what happened.
Wow. Alexander Vindman, of course, was the real instigator or spark plug behind it. Of course, he's no longer with the administration. And now, here we have the media looking the other way, not you, of course, but when we talk about Hunter Biden and the sweetheart deals with Burisma and with the Chinese communists, we're befuddled by the fact the media is willfully ignorant of all this, and for some reason don't see that as a threat to national security. That's not going anywhere either, is it?
No, look, and I found at the time, and still, I found it amazing. I mean, there's nothing more serious than an effort to remove the President of the United States. And I think the idea of having this process be kicked off, sparked by someone who's anonymous, and remains anonymous, as the whistleblower does. Yeah. Plus, Lieutenant Colonel Vindman would never tell investigators one person that he told, who he told about this outside the White House. Democrats didn't want to know, wouldn't allow him to answer, or Republicans to even ask. I just find it astonishing that all of this happened, that there was an impeachment and a trial, and we were forbidden by Democrats from knowing how it began, as well as the substance of what the president has been talking about, which is Hunter Biden's business dealings in Ukraine and China. Now, I will say that Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin, has been looking into this, and I think we may hear from him next week. I don't know what he's going to say, but I do think we're going to hear from him next week.
Excellent. And your reading of what's going to happen in this election, are you as befuddled as most people are? We kind of sense a landslide, but I can't understand why anybody is seriously talking about Joe Biden for president. Obviously, there's somebody standing behind the curtain that wants to be elected president, de facto president, by Joe Biden, but the media seems perfectly happy with having him in the seat. But it's like Weekend at Bernie's down there,
Well, they're all looking at the indicators, and there are several indicators that look good for Biden right now. The national polls, he's up, I think, about 6 or 7 points in the Real Clear Politics average. A lot of people don't trust the polls. They'll laugh when you start talking about polls. But the state polls are really important. I mean, if you look right now, everybody's looking at Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona. And Biden is leading on all of those, but it's gotten very, very close in a number of them. Biden was up by 8 points in Florida at midsummer. He's up by maybe 1 point, or maybe they're dead even right now. So those have really changed, and they're very important. I was just reading an article by Sean Trendy of Real Clear Politics about Trump's job approval rating, which is just about where it is to get reelected.
Right.
I think the people who are serious and trying to be fair about this really don't want to repeat the mistakes they made in predicting in 2016, but they also have to just admit that a lot of this is unpredictable. Trump is an absolutely unique figure in American politics. Voters don't behave exactly the same way with him that they have in the past. They might not tell a pollster who they're going to vote for. They might change their mind at the last minute. Who knows? We just all need to be a little more humble, certainly, than we were in 2016.
Well, Byron, we thank you for being so generous with your time to share with us some wisdom from your latest book, Obsession. I think it's going to be an obsession for me to read and others here in the room. It's available from Regnery Publishing at fine bookstores, Amazon, all the booksellers across America, and we highly recommend it. And we will wish to thank you very much for giving us the insights that you provide to us on a regular basis, and thank you for being with us here tonight.
And thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's been our privilege. Byron York, everybody, give him a good hand. Thank you. Trump Talk Now returns in a moment.
Time to check on the progress of the wall. Let's take a time out. On Trump Talk Now. It's Racing's original North Turn. If you're looking for a good drink, great entertainment, and the best in food, you're right on the beach at Racing's original North Turn. Rhonda and Walt invite you to come on down to dinner tonight. Here are a couple of testimonials. These are actual testimonials from people who have enjoyed the North Turn. Been there many times. Always great food and drinks. Great location on the beach. And another. What a great experience. It's my new favorite restaurant in the Daytona Beach area. Racing's original North Turn on South Atlantic Avenue. That's A1A in Ponce-Inlet, about 3.2 miles south of the Tunlawton Bridge in A1A. It's Racing's original North Turn. A restaurant, museum, bar, gift shop, live music. That's Racing's North Turn. Racing's North Turn has been voted by you top 10 beach bar 7 years in a row. Next year, they're going for top 5. Let's return now to the Trump Truth from Volusia Top Gun. It's Trump Talk Now with your host, Vic Baker.
Welcome back, Trumpublicans. When you see Byron York on Fox News, you might get 3 minutes. You got this show, and that was a real privilege. This guy has got a lot of wisdom to impart. He's a very humble guy, too. This segment brought to you by Sheds of Daytona. Joe, you have a story to recount.
I admire him so much. During the 2016 campaign, 90% of the media, just like now, was against Trump, and some of them they just mailed it in. They didn't leave their office. They just against Trump, and they mailed it in. Byron York was old school journalism. He got in his car and went to Trump rallies, got inside, talked to people, reported on what they said. I was reading his stuff in the Washington Examiner. I'd always look to see where he was and read whatever he wrote. And he was the real deal. And what everybody else is saying, the rallies don't mean anything, it's just cheerleading and all that. Byron York was there on the floor of these rallies, and he says, I think something's going on here.
That's right. Byron York always comes across very scholarly, very smart guy, but humble.
He's a working journalist like you think of it when you think of that.
Yeah, and so we're going to come back with one more break because we spent extra time with Byron, and we're going to take another break, and we'll be back in a moment.
Scanning the net news for fake news. Let's take a time out on Trump Talk Now. ShedsOfDaytona.com has it all shapes, all sizes, wood buildings by Weather King, cabins, she sheds, man caves, metal buildings by Carolina, carports, RV covers, barns, and overholt greenhouses, gazebos, screen rooms, dog kennels, chicken coops. They have it all. Come see ShedsOfDaytona.com, located at the Daytona Flea and Farmers Market, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Want more Trump Talk now? You can go to Blog Talk Radio, search Trump Talk Now, and select your favorite audio past edition. That's Blog Talk Radio, search Trump Talk Now, and select. Now you have more choices. You can go to our Facebook page, Trump Talk Now, scroll down to select your favorite show from our archives, or go to Blog Talk Radio for an audio version. And remember, Patriots, please like us and share us. Help us spread the word. You can watch our broadcast live from anywhere in the world on our Facebook page, Trump Talk Now. Let's return now to the Trump Truth from Volusia Top Gun. It's Trump Talk Now with your host, Vic Baker.
Welcome back, Trump Republicans. This segment brought to you locally by Racing's North Turn. We kind of played catch up here with the commercial breaks because we spent extra time with Byron York. I hope you'll indulge us with that. I just wanted to mention, Joe, thanks. Rob Goriello and Diane are in the audience. Thanks. Welcome to the show. We want to thank them. They played host to us, to me, my wife, and friends. Rob has a company called Shark Bite Media, a unique service provided. He has this huge billboard, two-sided billboard barge, which will float up and down the Halifax River. And during the huge flotilla we saw last week from Daytona to New Smyrna Beach, Rob was advertising for President Trump and Congressman Mike Waltz on his big sign all the way up and down the Halifax River, and got a lot of attention. You may have noticed the newspaper got wind of it and put something out on it too. We want to thank Rob for the work he's doing. He's providing a service that nobody else provides. The company's name is Shark Bite Media. So anybody out there on the internet who has a campaign around this part of Florida and you want a barge with a big billboard on it, Rob was going to go to the Republican National Convention with that barge and sit right outside the Five-Star Arena. But unfortunately, as you know, that convention got canceled.
That would have been a lot of good media right there.
That would have been a really, really good way to... And I tell you, all the other boats in the flotilla were pulling up alongside to take videos and pictures of Rob's billboards. He's really got an idea of whose time has come there. So we thank Rob for his generosity, and Diane as well.
Let's put one on a truck, a van, and I've seen that. There's one in West Palm Beach roaming around.
I got a feeling he's going to come up with that idea before long too, because we could have used it yesterday at the Trump event.
At the Laura Trump event. In case you missed that one, it's on. Vic has it up on Facebook and everything. You got to see it.
We put together a video of the flotilla that's up on Facebook, and there's also a picture. There's a 25-minute video to Shania Twain's number, "Feel Like a Woman."
Oh man!
Because this was a women's rally, and there were about 500 people there. And they were lining South Nova Road, enthusiastic, happy. A little bit of rain, but it didn't dampen anybody's enthusiasm. And everybody was thrilled to see Laura Trump, Katrina Pearson, and Pam Bondi, the rock star from Florida.
Yes. And let me tell you something, Volusia Republicans. You can be so proud. Your chairman, Marianne Pastelli, and her team, who work for the state of Florida, RPOF, they put on a brilliant presentation. I think the Trump people got blown away, actually. They were amazed.
Very impressed.
We put our best foot forward right there.
Yep. Now let's talk about some negative stuff. FBI Director Robert...
Democrats?
FBI Director... Well, the same thing. FBI Director Wray tells Congress that white supremacists make up the largest share of racially motivated terrorists in the U.S. Are you kidding me?
Who believes
While
that?
Black Lives Matter is trashing the streets, looting and rioting. Oh, we got a loose wire here?
Yeah.
A loose wire?
Yeah, let's see.
See.
All right.
Okay, we'll try to make sure we don't...
Don't move. Don't move.
I'll try not to move too much. I mean, so he's out to lunch. He's also saying the Russians are trying to interfere in favor of Trump against Biden again. Now,
I missed that. Is he bringing up the Russia thing again? I missed that.
He did today. Now, the other thing that I think you may have noticed is that Joe Biden is so mixed up, he's been calling it the Harris-Biden ticket. What is that telling you?
Well, she called it that first. They did an interview with her.
She also did.
And she knows that she's going to be running things anyway.
And the only thing worse than Joe Biden in the White House would be Kamala Harris taking his place in the White House. I don't know. None of us is old enough to remember Edith Wilson. Edith Wilson was the first lady to Woodrow Wilson, who was another disastrous Democrat president, a globalist, who got us into World War I and created the League of Nations and all these. I think the income tax came in during his administration. Although, by the way, it was his predecessor, William Howard Taft, that initiated the income tax. Believe it or not, it was a Republican.
He also did the Federal Reserve Bank, didn't he?
The Federal Reserve Bank. Now, Woodrow Wilson had a stroke in his second term. Edith Wilson was actually running the country. She was the de facto president of the United States.
It's true, and we had no 25th Amendment to remove a disabled president at that time.
Now imagine Dr. Jill Biden as your president. There you go. Now Joe can't. I mean, did you see him at a Hispanic event in South Florida this week, pulling out his phone and playing this Spanish song that is literally pornography, and he doesn't have any idea what the song says, but he's playing. He thinks that's very clever. You want this man's finger on the nuclear button?
No.
Really?
No, it's impossible.
I mean, Joe Biden running for President of the United States. Now, we have a debate in less than 2 weeks, 12 days from tonight. It'll be Tuesday, the 29th, I believe.
I don't believe it.
And the same day that Judge Sullivan is having another hearing on Judge Flynn, the same day.
Here's my prediction how they get out of it. 10 days before the debate, or a week before the debate, they're going to say that Joe Biden has been tested positive for coronavirus and he must go in isolation. That's how they get out of it.
You know something's going to happen, folks. Something's going to happen.
He can't do it. He can't do it. I don't think he can stand up for 30 minutes, much less an hour and a half.
You know, I'm sorry. It's like Michael Corleone against Abe Simpson. You know. If you watch Fox News this week, it was on Fox and Friends, or was it on another program on Fox News? They cut Newt Gingrich off when he said George Soros is paying for these liberal leftist district attorneys. They cut him off. Harris Faulkner has apologized for shutting him down because what he said is true. George Soros has funded all of these lawless prosecutors in cities like Chicago, L.A., and other parts of the country.
You know, in Russia, he is a criminal, and if he sets one foot in there, he will go to jail and never come out.
Yeah.
How does Russia get to treat George Soros the way he should? And in America, he's like Fox News. You can't even say his name. This is unbelievable.
And here's another item. Internal polls must really be bad for the Democrats because all of a sudden, after initially embracing the Maoist mob, fancy Nancy Pelosi of the hairdryer and ice cream now calls for prosecution of rioters. And we're going to get a new microphone cord sometime soon. Anyhow, we're going to return in just a moment after this break.
Living the American dream. Let's take a time out on Trump Talk Now. There's more Trump Talk Now, Patriots. You can catch us live on our Facebook page, Trump Talk Now. You can watch a previous show on our same Facebook page, Trump Talk Now. You can also stream our audio version on Blog Talk Radio. Search for Trump Talk Now. And coming soon will be our past shows streaming on our YouTube channel, Trump Talk Now. We wish to thank our host, Volusia Top Gun, and the Double Barrel Restaurant. If you need anything related to guns, Volusia Top Gun is a must-stop. From retail to lessons and instruction to gun range, it's all here. Let's return now to the Trump Truth. From Volusia Top Gun, it's Trump Talk Now with your host, Vic Baker.
Welcome back, Trump Republicans. This segment brought to you locally by Embroidery Plus. We apologize, I've got a loose wire someplace. People have been saying that for years. Anyhow, Judge Janine, her book is called Don't Lie to Me. Well, Judge Janine did tell me she'd be on the show tonight. But she has a conflict. So we're going to reschedule Judge Janine. We're going to get her on very soon on the show. And we're still trying to work out this new technology. Some of the guests can accomplish it, some can't. We're in the age of COVID where some can do it from home and some can't. So when possible, we're going to get them on the screen. When not, we do them by audio only, just to explain to you. Joe, now you have the floor.
Well, you know, I'm Pollyanna. I'm always looking for something to be glad about, right? So here's something to be glad about. The Seattle mayor may face federal charges over the autonomous zone thing. Remember that? Yes. Attorney General Barr has tasked the DOJ Civil Rights Division with investigating whether charges can be brought against Mayor Jenny Durkan. How about that?
And she herself, ironically, is a former federal prosecutor.
Yeah, now see, we may not get Obama in jail, but maybe we can get Mayor Durkan in jail. How about that?
Something else happened today on Constitution Day. President Trump signed an executive order to create a national commission to promote patriotic education. The project will be called the 1776 Commission.
There you go.
Vice President Mike Pence and a panel of history experts joined with the president as he delivered his remarks in Washington, D.C. today. President Trump no longer wants the U.S. public school system to brainwash students to be ashamed of our American history. Trump slammed the 1619 Project, a new program created by the hate news organization formerly known as the New York Times to try to redefine America as a horrible, racist, blank hole country as toxic propaganda. Critical race theory, the 1619 Project and the crusade against American history, is toxic propaganda meant to poison the American ideal. It's ideological poison that, if not removed, will dissolve the civic bonds that tie us together, said Trump.
It turns out that the federal government in its agencies was retraining people, which is re-education camps, folks, under the critical race theory curriculum, which was, if you've read anything about this, this is horrible. President Trump got wind of it. He put an executive order out. It is out of the federal agency business.
Except, thank God for the era of the internet, because it has come to light that the CDC, the people that brought you shutdowns and masks and all that stuff, the CDC
tried to keep it.
Is tried to defy the president by keeping it.
But that's come full circle, and now it's out there too because they got wind of that.
That has nothing to do with disease control.
That's right.
Except the virus of misapplying mistruth.
This exemplifies what Trump's up against. The entire federal bureaucracy is entrenched in its power. You can hardly touch them. The president gives an executive order, no critical race theory in the federal agencies, and the CDC ignores it until it was pointed out they ignored it, and now it's out there too.
And the president concluded his quote today by saying, "The only path to national unity is through our shared identity as Americans. That is why it is so urgent that we finally restore patriotic education to our schools." Now,
yes.
Another analysis coming out, I don't know, those of you who remember the Cold War remember Pravda. That was the official newspaper of the Soviet Union. That was the party line for the communist Soviet communists.
And the Russian people knew it was garbage, and they drank vodka all the time.
Yeah, the more they'd read a page, they'd drink another glass of vodka.
But they had an answer for it.
Samizdat. Samizdat was the underground press in the Soviet Union. They would spread the word, the true word. Well, this particular commentator has said we have a Samizdat, our equivalent here in the United States. It's called Rush Limbaugh. It's called Sean Hannity. It's called Tucker Carlson. It's called
Trump Talk Now.
Breitbart. Trump Talk Now. Just the News, the Gateway Pundit. This is all the Samizdat equivalent.
Vic says this all the time, folks. We are the media. We are the citizen journalists. Every one of us has a phone, has a computer. We are the ones that have to get the word out because we know CNN's not going to do it.
Now, I had some snarky person email me today saying that we're weak leaders because we don't make the newspaper put coverage in of our big events like yesterday.
He's talking about the News Journal.
This email came to me about an hour before the article appeared in the newspaper covering our major event yesterday. Because when the reporter for that newspaper was outside our building and I saw him, I said to our people, let him in, give him what he needs, let him cover the event. Because I know that if you work honestly and forthrightly with the media, they can't say you tried to hide anything from him. He got some accurate quotes into the article. And I said the first rule for any public figure or public organization is when you deal with the media, say what you will about me, but spell my name right.
That's right.
Okay? They said, they made note of the fact that most of the people crowding into the room and crowding into the front lawn outside of headquarters were not wearing masks.
Oh.
We supplied masks to anybody who wished to wear them. We do not believe as Republicans that anybody should force you to wear anything on your face, especially something that's going to infest you with germs more than not wearing it. And what's the deal about people wearing masks in their car by themselves, or wearing masks while they're walking their dogs, or wearing masks while they're out on a boat in the fresh air? This is nonsense, folks. It's absolute nonsense. And you know, Redfield now is saying, from the CDC, is saying, oh, the masks are even better than a vaccine.
Which, when this started, the CDC said that masks don't matter.
They sure did. Fauci himself said masks
the great Fauci said that.
He said they cause more harm than good.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Bob Woodward's tried to take a shot at the president, and the Atlantic magazines tried to take a shot at the president. They're all going to try to shoot him down. The article today in the newspaper about yesterday's big Women for Trump event had some snark in it, but you know something? It was mostly very positive. He did acknowledge we had hundreds of people turn out. How many people have you seen turn out for a Biden event in this county?
No.
Zero.
No.
Zero.
No.
Zero. If they're turning out, we're not seeing them.
And you know, Biden wearing that black mask, I don't know who tells him that's a good idea. I know it's supposed to be virtue signaling, but he looks like a bandit. I mean, he wears that black mask and everything. Of course, he is a bandit.
Or Hannibal Lecter, or even more kindly, he looks weak and feeble.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of president that we want leading us?
Yeah.
Or do you want a strong, vigorous man who turns 74 on Flag Day this year, and he looks like he's 30 years younger than that? It's the first time I've ever seen a president of the United States get younger in his first 4 years in office.
The portrait of Dorian Gray, I guess, right?
I got a portrait of Dorian. He's got a rotting portrait in the White House attic. Yeah, you'll get that if you read the book. Anyhow, we want to thank our crew, Shane Stanton, Bolt, our Director of Technology, Stacy Brinkerhoff, the Energizer Bunny, our Assistant Producer, Kathy Applegard, Cash, who handles our business development, Robert Mara, Mr. Clean, our Assistant Producer, and of course, Mike Multane, Mad Dog, our Founder and Executive Producer. Next week on Trump Talk Now, we welcome you back for Michael Betrus, an author who has something to say about the COVID virus, and we do expect to have another guest on, Kathy Chamberlain, who was previously a guest with us. We're going to try to get her on the video screen, the author of Rules for Deplorables. So join us again next week for another exciting edition of Trump Talk Now.
Thanks for joining us as we make America great again, 1 hour at a time. Trump Talk Now originates from the Double Barrel Bar and Grill at Volusia Top Gun in Daytona Beach, Florida. Join us next week as we live the American dream on Trump Talk Now.